Marine driving through a remote, snow-covered mountain road suddenly sees a German shepherd sitting upright in the middle of the icy path, front paws raised as if begging. As he slows down, recognition strikes. He knows those eyes. Months ago, in a war-torn village overseas, he saved this very dog's life. Now she's here, miles from anywhere, clearly desperate, but why? What she silently asks him for will lead to a rescue that no one present will ever forget. Fresh snow muffled every sound along the lonely mountain road. Inside his pickup, retired Marine Ethan Cole drove carefully, tires crunching over ice as tall evergreens bent beneath heavy drifts. Winter drives like this gave him space to think about the missions he'd left behind and the quiet life he was slowly building in a remote cabin nearby. The sky was dimming toward twilight when movement ahead jolted him. A lone German shepherd stood in the center of the road, motionless except for the rising steam of her breath. She wasn't wandering or frightened. Instead, she sat upright on her haunches, front paws lifted like a silent plea. Ethan's heart jumped. Something about her posture and those piercing eyes told him this meeting was no accident. Ethan eased the truck to a stop and stepped into the crisp twilight, his boots sinking into fresh powder. The German shepherd didn't flinch. Instead, she locked eyes with him, ears sharp, tail low but steady, like she knew him. A sudden memory hit him with the force of a winter gust. Afghanistan. Months earlier, during a late-night patrol through a bombed-out village, he'd found a wounded stray dog hiding under shattered beams. He'd carried her to safety, cleaned her wounds, whispered comfort while firefights raged outside. He remembered the warm amber eyes that had met his in silent trust. Now those same eyes stared back at him. Thinner, older, but unmistakable. Ethan's breath caught. How could she possibly have crossed oceans to find him here? Ethan knelt in the snow, his gloved hands outstretched. "Is it really you, girl?" he whispered, his voice trembling in the icy air. The German shepherd stepped forward and placed a paw gently on his knee, a faint whine breaking the silence. But before he could take in the miracle, he noticed something alarming. The dog's flanks shivered uncontrollably, and her breathing was uneven as if every inhale cost her strength. Dark stains of dried blood clung to patches of fur along her side. "She's hurt," Ethan muttered, scanning the trees for danger. The dog tugged at his sleeve with surprising urgency, then backed a few paces, glancing over her shoulder toward the dense forest as if begging him to follow, heart pounding. Ethan grabbed a flashlight from the truck and followed the German shepherd into the silent woods. Snow crunched beneath his boots while the fading daylight painted the pines in blue-gray shadow. The dog moved with surprising purpose, pausing only to check that he stayed close. After several minutes, a faint whimper floated through the trees. Ethan's breath caught. The shepherd quickened her pace, weaving between frozen branches until they reached a shallow hollow under a fallen spruce. There, huddled together, were 3 tiny puppies, their fur barely thicker than the snowflakes settling around them. They whimpered softly, shivering in the bitter cold. Ethan realized the mother had traveled miles, wounded and starving, to find the one human she trusted to save her fragile family. Ethan dropped to his knees, heart clenching at the sight of the fragile pups. Their tiny sides rose and fell with shallow breaths, each whimper weaker than the last. Without immediate warmth, they wouldn't last the night. He shrugged off his heavy coat and carefully tucked the shivering puppies inside, close to his chest for body heat. "Hang on, little ones," he murmured, zipping the coat snug. The mother dog pressed close, licking their faces anxiously before nudging Ethan's arm as if urging him to move. Snow began to fall harder, the forest dimming under the thickening storm. Ethan stood balancing the precious bundle. "Let's get you home," he said firmly. With the brave mother trotting beside him, he fought through the deepening drifts toward his truck, every step a race against the coming night. Ethan eased the truck onto the icy road, cranking the heater to full blast. He lined the seat with blankets from his emergency kit, then carefully nestled the puppies inside. Their tiny bodies twitched as faint warmth returned. The mother climbed in after them, curling protectively around her babies. "Stay with me," Ethan whispered, glancing back as he drove toward the nearest 24-hour veterinary clinic. Snow thickened, blurring the headlights and turning the road into a pale ribbon. When he called ahead, the vet on duty promised to have warming incubators ready. Ethan kept one hand steady on the wheel and the other gently stroking the mother's back, murmuring reassurance. The pups' faint squeaks grew a little stronger with each mile, a fragile promise that they still had a chance. The clinic team rushed into action the moment Ethan pushed through the door, snow swirling in behind him. Warm lights and the hum of equipment replaced the frozen silence outside. A vet tech whisked the puppies into an incubator, while another gently cleaned and dressed the mother's wounds. Ethan stayed close, whispering calm words he once used on missions far away. The German Shepherd watched him the entire time, eyes full of trust and quiet gratitude. After an anxious hour, the veterinarian returned with a relieved smile. "They're going to make it, all of them," she said. "You brought them just in time." Ethan exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. As the mother settled beside her sleeping puppies, she rested her head on his boot, a silent thank you for the second life he'd helped give her family. Weeks later, Ethan signed adoption papers that made the reunion official. The German Shepherd, whom he named Grace, and her 3 lively pups now filled his once quiet cabin with warmth and playful chaos. Neighbors came to meet the miraculous family, amazed at how Grace had crossed miles of wilderness to find the Marine who once saved her. Local news shared their story, inspiring countless adoptions and acts of kindness. Some evenings, Ethan sat on the porch, puppies tumbling at his feet while Grace rested her head on his knee. He would whisper, "You found me again," knowing their unbroken bond had turned a winter night's plea into a lifelong promise of love and home.